Hello and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. My name is Ayush and we have Chaitanya and Prateek on the panel today. Say
Hi
hi, boys.
guys.
Hi guys.
We're recording at 4 p.m. on Saturday evening because we've heavily delayed all the research that has gone into today's talk. But hopefully it'll still be interesting to all of y'all reading today. Before
A
we
very
begin,
interesting fact to our viewers that
uh,
is the last podcast of Ayush because
finally,
yeah, the sir is
I'm
leaving.
Ayush
I'm
was
handing
waiting.
over
Yeah.
Liberation has come for Ayush.
I'm handing the mantle over to you both to handle the podcast.
We will
So,
hope to serve
Big
you as
shoes to
good
fill
as
in.
Ayush used to. Yeah.
hmm. ठीक है. If the bakchodi is over,
Okay.
then let's start the stock. ठीक है. So today's stock, the most interesting part of it, I think, is the fact that it's made its investors about a 7x return in just the past year, which is a mind-boggling number to fathom and must be filling everyone in this, not only on this call, but people watching this who haven't invested in the stock with immense amount of FOMO. And this company is called AurionPro Solutions. Now, you've probably not heard of it, and it's for good reason, because the company, until very recently, used to be a very boring, run-of-the-mill IT services company, very tiny, and wasn't really on the map because it's on the back end of a lot of our customer-facing things like banks. But it's been going through a little bit of an interesting story, and we've tried to cover it as much as possible over the next 20 to 25 minutes. So let's see how cool this boring IT company decided to become over the past couple of years. And before we begin, none of what we speak about during the course of this podcast is financial advice in any way. Any of the securities we mention is just supposed to be for education and entertainment purposes only. ठीक है. So, AurionPro Solutions. I think it's been in the news like a lot lately, right?
Yeah, मतलब
Hmm.
there have
And
been
that's why we're
multiple
covering, na?
announcements made by the company. Yeah, हर 2-3 दिन में there have been some announcements. Yeah, so
In
it has
especially in
been
April, like I think in the
April. Yeah,
beginning of the month they were like raising
They
capital
did
a
a
little bit.
QIP.
They did a QIP.
and and then I think they did some
The big names
acquisition
like
recently, like
Goldman and
5-6
everything
days
is
back. Yeah.
participating.
So they've done a QIP where big names like Goldman have come into the picture in terms of investing. I think
Yeah.
Goldman has about a 1% stake ish now. And they, as you Pratik said, a new acquisition of an AI company. Now, none of it, I mean, that's a lot to take in for a company in terms of news. So we thought of like picking it up. That's what she said. Picking it up
Yeah.
and seeing what exactly happened. Because while the 1 year period that we're taking into consideration, the stock has gone up by 7x. The first 16 years of the company being listed, so it's been around in the market since 2005, it has
Yeah.
given a very, very flat return. Like if you just look at the chart, it's almost a straight, wiggly line that's barely moved. And suddenly now it's up by such a large number. So, what happened? What did they do in terms of changing its perception as a company overall, and what does its future look like? That's what we're going to cover over the next 20 minutes. So, yeah, what happened, guys? Anyone wants to take up that?
No, I think basically AurionPro was just a simple IT company, IT services company, which were offering services predominantly to the banking sector.
Yeah.
So to help banks in tracking day-to-day cash needs or monitoring loan activity, if it's risky or not to give to the borrowers and stuff, and sending out alerts to the customers of bank, the basic needs of
So,
a
like back
bank.
end stuff only.
Yeah, everything was backend stuff.
Got
But
it.
the problem is that was earlier bank used to have their own software for this kind of thing,
Hmm.
and even that's not the case. Then other banks would be giving out the this kind of services to the big companies like TCS, Oracle, and Infosys, all this stuff.
Right.
So
basically
Pro
to
was
the
not
reliable
funding,
names.
Yeah.
yeah, reliable names with the scale opportunity, scale capabilities. So
Right.
Pro was not finding their place in that, and while the industry was growing at around 25% revenue growth. The company was stuck at mere 15% of revenue growth. The same case was in the EBITDA margins. So that ended up company trading at a low single digit or middle single digit P when a
Yeah.
forward basis, and that dragged out. It continued about until FY18 when AurionPro is like बहुत हुआ. Now we have to do some stuff around here to
Buckle up.
change the
Yeah.
fortune of our company.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the company finally identified two things. First of all, they they took the patent product segment, which is basically intellectual property led product segment, which they create a product from scratch in house, which of course needs a lot of R&D, which they invested in, and then patented it. And then what was the use case in the product? It was simply to the same customer, the bank sector, but now that this product was protected by patent, so it was
Yeah.
not easily replaceable, which wasn't the case in earlier. So it was more of a commoditized product they were in, and then they shifted to a more like a specialized or something which has some kind of a entry barrier to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So in
basically,
that
they
segment,
had a simple product and they shifted to a specialized product, but within their own circle of competency, the
yeah,
banking and
they,
the
we have been in the
financing.
banking since the last 20 years. We want to stay in that.
Hmm.
We want to leverage our expertise and whatever connections we have in that particular
Yeah.
sector, and we want to play in that area only.
Interesting. So
Acha.
as opposed to just offering services before or maybe utilizing someone
Uh,
else's patent or license, they were creating their own, which makes that, as you said, makes Orion
yeah.
Pro basically irreplaceable to a certain client that they pitch the product to. Because they're the
Mhm.
only ones who can service it, update it, maintain it, etc.
Maintain and operation revenue also.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Mhm.
Cool. So that was
So
the
then
first
I
thing.
think,
What was the second thing?
Mhm.
I
कोई
think
तो
the
बोलेगा.
second thing was
oh,
that they, as you said, they've been around in banking for like 2 decades now,
हाँ.
more than that.
Mhm.
But they found that as we already mentioned, it's a very crowded industry, and there's very limited scope for cool things to do, and it's not very forward-looking either. Like fintech here, but it's very visible as to what the extent of which it can go. But they've
Mhm.
unlocked a few new opportunities in different other sectors as well. So that's what we're going to get into both, like why the patented model seems to be
Yeah.
working and why how what they did in terms of making that business pivot and how they've diversified into
Mhm.
other industries. So yeah, Pratik,
Mhm.
how did
so I
they
think,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, how did they move into the whole patented model or how did they increase
But
concentration in that?
so I think this company has been doing incurring massive expenses for the research and development since the past few
तू
years.
तू तो पहले ही हंस ले. We'll talk about patents and all later. Like
Sorry guys.
laugh.
Sorry guys.
No, we're not editing this shit out. It's fine.
My
We're
I
not
bad. My
editing
think
it
bad.
out. Eight
I
and a
think
half minutes.
10% of their revenues come from the research
Hmm.
are
Yeah,
for the research and development
yeah,
expenses. So it shows कि हाँ, they take around 2 to 3 years to develop or fine tune a particular product and then launch it into the market. And
right.
obviously, in the given the industry which they are in, like the banking, trust is very important because
Hmm.
all these products which they're making has to be. यार चैतन्य कितना हंसेगा भाई रुक जा.
हाँ, has
Ayush
to
is
be.
Ayush is
हाँ,
doing that. ऐसा करके he's doing that.
Has to be,
So the
has to be.
trust, yeah. So
Hmm.
trust is very important, and then I think if the bank selects a particular product, then they're going to stick with that particular product for the next for the next 15 to 20 years, because then switching costs will be very high when it
Hi.
comes to changing a entire product. So yeah,
Right.
that was one thing which helped them. And then after this, with the patented products, what helped them was to give services also for these particular products,
Hmm.
because time by time there has to be upgradation in the product features, there has to be maintenance services, so they were getting
Yeah.
recurring revenues from that also. So earlier, this product part of the company was constituted like around 20% of the revenues, but now cut to FY23, it has crossed the more. It has more than 50% of revenues coming in from the patented products now and
This
the
is in six
affiliated
years.
services.
This is in
Yeah, this
about
is in
six years.
6 years. Yeah,
That's
so I
still cool.
think then they must have put in a lot of efforts in the last 6 years into their R&D so as to
Yeah.
create the
Yeah.
top tier products in this particular segment.
Right.
And then I think the results, we can see that the stock price has shot up since in the last
I
one
think
year.
But I think the most important
absolutely.
thing you mentioned there is the services part which comes with the product. I think that has been
Mhm.
the real game changer for them. That the products are not the sole service that they are offering. They are also
Mm.
offering services around that product, like
Yeah.
maintenance and operating. So that way, it both helps them. I think in the growing with the product part.
Right.
Hmm.
Pretty cool. I think apart from the whole R&D space, which is obviously very important, and their spend has increased to, as you said, around 10% of revenues every year.
Mhm.
But another interesting thing that they did is, and to like really commit to the fact that okay, we're going to go all in on only these kind of products now, and we're going to make it the best fucking
Mm.
products out there. I think they started selling off certain parts of their business,
Yeah.
and they demerged into another entity altogether and offloaded some of their consulting services, customer
Yeah.
related services, anything that
Mhm.
wasn't really contributing as much, and just put their heart and soul into creating patented products and the services that those offer, and just like general software related services that make it an IT company at its core. So that concising of business and consolidation really helped streamline their focus into okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do this well, and we're going to do this for the rest of our lives now. And that really helped, I think, not just as you said, in creating the products that they have now, but almost an immediate effect on financials that we've seen is that EBITDA margins what went from 14% to 22% now, and the
Mhm.
Yeah.
company has some kind of accounting treatment that's making it look uh, lesser than it probably is, but
Lesser
we
than
still
actually it
expect,
is. Yeah.
yeah. But like
Mm.
bottom line, we can still see that 22% rise at some point in time because of the way this patented model works. So
And they have been maintaining this 22% over the past 2-3 years now. So like they have
yeah,
maintained these
yeah,
margins. Yeah, that's the thing.
correct. So that turnaround was
So just
almost immediate in their financials.
Hmm.
Yeah.
sustained
Chetan,
margins is also there. That was the
yeah, yeah, correct.
But at the same time, I think all this they did for the business, that's good. But they also realized कि management का bandwidth भी देखना जरूरी है. So they brought in
Yeah,
Ashish Rai,
that's true.
ex Finastra guy, and Finastra I think is one of the top
Yeah,
companies in the
it's
financial services
exactly,
provider, yeah, globally. So ek
correct.
to they got his experience, and he entered the company as a vice chairman in 2022,
Yeah,
and within like 8 or 9 months he's now the CEO of the company and running the operations for the company. So I think his
crazy.
experience also helped them.
Yeah, for
क्योंकि
sure. I
product
think he
बनाते
I
भी
only,
think
और
he's
but
the guy
even,
now who started taking con call for the company also.
yeah,
हाँ he only
exactly.
increased the
Yeah.
investor engagement,
Yeah.
yeah, for the company, हाँ.
Until then,
So that
no one
also
had any clue
removed.
also what AurionPro was up to, and
Hmm.
now suddenly there's so much limelight because of it.
So that also increased investor confidence to some extent.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
But now there is a
absolutely.
person who is responsible and who is answerable
Uh,
to our queries.
Correct,
That definitely
correct.
increases the
And the
It's pretty
thing is,
cool.
matlab, if the company is able to make good products, that is one thing. But then you also need to know how to capture a market share or how to capture
yeah, yeah.
clients in
Yeah,
different markets. So then I think Ashish Rai was a very important person or a part of the company to do that for them, because he had past experience of like 20 years in this particular industry.
yeah,
And ऊपर से then he was I think head of some Asia Pacific region for Finastra. So he already
right.
knew how the market works. So it became
Yeah,
easy for him to build sales channel. Then they were able to tap those new markets. So
right.
yeah.
So they really bridged that first half of the problem that they identified, right? Like that
Uh-huh.
they were really lacking in a core business model that was going to be lucrative. So they changed that, and they changed the guy who was heading the entire operation so that what they were elsewhere also lacking, which is the ability to sell, that has also been
Mhm.
bridged now very well.
Mm.
So that's quite a cool turnaround. Was Chaitanya drinking out of a BJP teacup?
Yeah,
Election
yeah.
season.
Election season, let's go.
Daiso,
None of this
Daiso
is
रुपया मिला
political advice
गेट
either.
orange cup का. But we don't endorse anything.
We don't endorse anything.
We only endorse going out and vote. So kindly vote.
Yes. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but coming back to Oren Pro, I think that's not the only thing they changed. They also identify the new segments which they can
yeah,
try their products segment is, which is like
Correct.
smart city, smart mobility, and a recent addition being a data center. So they were they're like we're creating products. So now let's diversify and use this product to go into industries other than banking, so that whatever the cyclicality element was there in the banking industry, uh, we
Counter
can
it.
cover ourselves against them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the smart city segment, they have partnered with the government to create a 3D modeling of the Indian city to facilitate infrastructure planning segment and all these things. And they
That's pretty
already
cool.
received order worth 300, 200 crore, which is like I think 30% of their FY23 revenue in this segment
Shit.
from the states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Delhi. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if your city is getting smarter, yeah, this is the tendency stock, by
It's
the way.
probably yeah.
Yeah, and smart city was that again. There's another segment in the business segment is called smart mobility. So which
Right.
is so they have entered into the metro fare collection and all those systems. So it is India's first EMV card reader. So EMV is basically Europay, Mastercard, and Visa.
Yeah.
So for public transportation. So there are also, I mean, a lot of tailwinds in that, as we know that as India grow, and newer cities are getting metro, and no, so that is a really
In
good
fact,
growth segment.
the same EMB system that you're talking about, they're planning on
Hmm.
taking it outside India as well. Like AurionPro has
Hmm.
the patent for, as obviously,
Yeah,
has the patent for
yeah,
this particular
patent to
system.
globally होता है.
Correct.
Hmm.
So they're going to
And
take it outside India and like really push this product out there, which
and
is
I
which
think
is
But I
they've
think,
basically
already started tapping the US markets also, because I
yeah,
think they
yeah, yeah,
got
yeah. They've
one
done a few
order
test
for
runs,
the
right?
हाँ हाँ कैलिफोर्निया
Yeah,
में आई थिंक सैक्रामेंटो का जो रेल प्रोजेक्ट है और एंड बैक द ऑर्डर फॉर
that's
दैट
pretty cool.
हाँ
That's
हुई
pretty cool.
मतलब
hmm.
and they've done orders already for Mexico हो गया ऐसे ऐसे नाइजीरिया का रेलवे सिस्टम they only have transformed
Shit.
by putting in all these automatic fare collection devices वो जो टेलर मशीन है जिससे आप टिकट ले सकते हो all
Yeah.
that Oran Pro नहीं किया for Nigeria.
Oh, damn, that's pretty cool. That is interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, as you said, right, as the public transport system grows everywhere, this particular invention becomes quite necessary to
Hmm.
facilitate that smooth transition from outside to inside.
And
That's
the
pretty
last
cool.
segment, as I mentioned, is the data center, which is also a very new and growing sector. So
I think
their
they entered in
end-to-end
FY22.
services. Yeah, so Pratik will carry on from now on. Let's see.
अरे
Like you interrupted him, na?
Pratik,
Now
मेरी
fuck
चाय
you,
ठंडी हो
dude.
रही है अभी.
as I think they entered the data center segment in FY22, and ऐसे देखे तो it was the right time for the company to enter, because government is also trying to push the need for data center for
Yeah,
India, and government also wants to make them a data center, global data center hub, India a global data center hub. So
yeah,
Orion Pro has been helping by in building, helping in providing consultancy services for the entire data center building projects. So matlab they have one of the best teams for data center building in the country, and they've backed orders. So I think they've partnered with Webworks, which is already a big name in the data center industry,
yeah.
and they have plans to roll out what like around 100 megawatts of data centers in the coming years.
So for the
So they
uninducted,
hmm,
a data center is what? Just a server room, right? You put like infrastructure
basically
for
hmm,
computers.
and large handling of data can be done through a
Yeah,
data center. Matlab it becomes
yeah,
easy to handle large amounts of
correct.
data.
Like those cool things you see in movies. अच्छा
हाँ
वो निकाल के फुट लेते हैं वहां से वो डेटा ले लिया दैट डेटा
ये
सेंटर
देश ही खत्म हो जाएगा इससे
देसी
ये खत्म तो देश ही
एक
खत्म.
यूएसबी डाल दिया गांड फाड़ देंगे दैट डेटा सेंटर
हाँ
correct. Well, yeah, that's just still a pretty. I think they set up a few. I think in Pune and Hyderabad, and now they've got orders for Bangalore,
हम्म,
Bombay, and Chennai. So they've already
हम्म,
nailed the metropolitan cities for the most part.
हम्म,
Very rapid expansion into this new space. So it's pretty cool to see. In fact, this, as you guys mentioned, they entered this entire new area of smart mobility, city, and data centers, and all not not even a couple of years back. So from a segment that didn't exist, let's say 5 years ago, now it makes up for 50% of revenues and is quite the growth driver in terms of profitability as well. Because this particular segment, revenue wise, has grown 50% year on year for the past 2 years. Banking segment has grown by 25% in the last 2 years. So, an almost 2x in terms of quantum of growth, and has obviously contributed to that margin expansion we've already seen. So it's pretty
But I
cool
think
that
the fast growth that you mentioned that came because of their investment in R&D, but also there was another reason, which was acquisition. They also done a lot of
oh
acquisition in the
yeah,
past,
yeah,
few years. Because otherwise, these kind of things which takes like R&Ds and stuff,
right,
they never know that when it will materialize. So
correct.
rather than solely relying on that particular thing, they also gone out and acquired some product or tech or company altogether, which had
Right.
already established such kind of a product uh, business.
So instead of
So
not just
starting from
creating IPs,
yeah,
they've also bought out
acquiring
intellectual.
bought out. Exactly.
Pretty cool.
So at the automated fare collection that we talked about, the railway, so they have done two acquisition in that, SC Soft and
Mm.
Toshi Automatic.
Yeah,
It's close to around 50 crore to both of them.
yeah,
So, and the recent one, as you guys mentioned, the AI platform for the banking and insurance space, RAI.
yeah,
So that is the latest addition, and I think that is one of the biggest one. I think. One of the
yeah.
biggest
They
one.
spent about
The one
140
what we
crores
see.
on it, I think.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Around that, yeah.
So, yeah, pretty cool. So they had
So I
revenues
think,
worth of 420 crores
uh,
in FY18, and that's the amount they've
yeah,
spent over the next 6 years
spend.
over acquisitions, 420 crores,
Mhm.
Wow.
which is quite karmic. Yeah, pretty cool. Really cool story. In fact, I think what's triggered and one of the few triggers for like while all of this sounds amazing in theory, uh,
Yeah,
this only reflected in like the eyes of the investors until FY23 when they saw that okay
yeah,
FY22 May and 23 May they've really sustainably and visibly grown the company and not just broken promises as they were giving a couple of years ago. So they've acted on those promises, and Ashish Rai has really stepped up as a core management driver for this entire growth. And what's better than like a large fund investing into your dream? And that's exactly what happened with AurionPro sometime last year, which actually started, or I mean, you could say it lit the fire for this entire rally,
Mm-hmm.
which I think Malabar India Fund, it's run by quite, I mean, it's a very prestigious fund, and they grabbed up about a 2% stake back then, and now it's about 5%. So they've incrementally increased their holdings as a show of faith, and obviously they have some kind of conviction towards Orion Pro. So that also helps in completely reshaping the kind of image the stock had, let's say 6 years ago, from being completely flat from its listing to now being up 7x since.
and the more interesting thing is that despite all the rally, the stock is
Yeah,
still trading at around 30 times its 1 year power. So it's
yeah,
not
which
like
is
it has
all
created
around the same as other IT players, right?
mind-boggling, around the same
Exactly.
as the competitor. So it's not a mind-boggling
So
valuation.
there's still room for
So,
more if
uh,
this thing
uh,
More,
works out.
yeah.
as we see, that a 30-35% revenue CAGR is projected for the next 3 years as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So if one were to do, not that we
the
are
math.
suggesting, but if one were to do a calculation,
Yeah,
he can find, or he or she can find the value in this.
yeah, true.
Nice.
Pretty cool. Very forward looking now for a change as opposed to the dreary business they were in before. Yeah, at least it's come into the limelight from being non existent.
Mm.
I think we were talking about
Yeah,
this before where the company was so small at one point that the market cap was what, 500 crores?
less than 500 crore, I think. Less
Which
than
means a
500.
micro cap,
It's
not even a small cap.
micro cap. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and now
And
it's
this is like just 4-5 years
6,900
back.
crores.
It's not like 10,
Exactly.
20 years back.
Yeah.
It's very
So
recent.
within this like 5, 6 years
Span of
span, they've
5 years,
completely turned this
micro
thing
cap
around.
से
Almost
सड़क
on
से
the way
उठा
to
के स्टार
becoming.
बना दूंगा.
अरे ये बात quite
good Bollywood
literally.
reference, Pratik.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Thank you.
That was that was not
Appreciate.
genuine praise, but yeah, we're gonna end our video and bid adieu
Yes.
to the Ayush.
Yes, sir. It has been a privilege to be part of this podcast. I started it,
Yes,
so fuck you guys.
we are now in the fear that our viewership will fall substantially after
It'll
the
actually
main
increase
hero
now.
is
It'll actually increase now
where I
for a
don't
change. I
know.
think you'll finally find out that I'm the problem and the podcast was being drugged down before. You will have an Orion Pro Solutions turnaround by demerging
Hopefully.
from me. Hopefully, man. But yes, that's all for today. Sorry, YouTube, for all the galis we've given over the course of
Yep.
this past year. Almost more than a
Yeah,
year
man.
and 3 months of running this
Some
podcast now.
undergrad student also might be watching this who are not 18 yet.
Yeah, but they
Please
already know
behave.
more gali than we do. So it's
भाई
fine.
लोग
But
क्लास
then
4 से बोलते आ रहे हैं अब तो.
We've blocked this video for kids, so that's a good thing.
18 plus parent advisory.
18 plus only, yeah. But yeah, that's all for today, folks. Tune in next week with these guys as they come out with more content for you, and it will continue to be a value add as it always has been. So stay tuned for more, and that's a wrap.